back to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something you hear a lot about, but maybe don't always dig into, what it really means to be data-led in business. We've got some great stuff here from Jerry Skew's Business by Numbers book, Thinking, Becoming Data-Led, the Data-Led Enterprise Guide, and also this interesting article, Data-Led, the Future of Business Design.
Yeah, good sources.
So our mission, really, is to unpack why data-led is, well, arguably much more powerful than just being data-driven.
Right.
And we want to reveal some of those universal principles the sources talk about, explore the different kinds of analysis, and just get a handle on the impact this approach can have, for your organization, maybe even your career.
Yeah, and how data isn't just about looking back at what happened.
Exactly. It's about what you build next.
And we'll get into those nuances, the difference between being proactive with strategy versus just reacting when things go wrong.
Okay.
How data can take all that uncertainty and hopefully turn it into clarity, turn ambition into something you can actually measure.
That sets things up perfectly. So let's jump right in. The sources immediately hit this core question. What is the difference between being data-driven and being data-led? People use them interchangeably sometimes.
They do, and it's a really key distinction. So a data-driven business, it tends to react. Insights pop up, and then they make decisions, often focused on the specific metrics for, critical events.
Okay.
It's kind of like steering a car just by looking in the rearview mirror.
Right. You see the problem after you've passed it.
Exactly. Churn spikes, marketing scrambles, costs go up, finance maybe makes cuts. It's better than nothing, sure, but it's still reactive.
Okay, so that's data-driven. What about data-led then?
Well, a data-led business is different. It uses data as the actual foundation for strategy, for the company culture, for everyday decision.
So it's embedded deeper.
Totally. It's about embedding measurement frameworks everywhere, making sure every decision lines up with this unified strategic vision. It's about designing the systems to avoid problems hitting you in the first place.
Predicting and preventing. Not just reacting to the fire drill.
Precisely. Predicting issues, preventing them, rather than just dealing with crises as they pop up.
That rear view mirror thing really works as an analogy. So if data-led is proactive, that implies more than just tools, right? It's like a cultural shift.
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamental. The source material is this great practical example with two retail businesses.
Right.
Both notice, say, a little dip in same-store sales.
Okay.
The data-driven one. They start digging into weekly numbers, maybe run some quick surveys, tweak the store hours, trying to fix the problem they've just seen.
Standard reaction, yeah.
But the data-led business, Skews points out, they already had, a predictive churn model running. Maybe it linked product range to price sensitivity.
So they saw something earlier.
Exactly. They spotted a leading indicator maybe months before, a subtle shift in basket size or how people use the loyalty program, something like that. And because they saw that, they'd already adjusted purchasing, maybe tweaked promotions, before the main sales dip really became obvious.
So one reacted after the fact. The other had already acted because of the data. Wow.
It's a completely different posture, a different mindset.
Okay, that distinction is crystal clear now. Let's zoom out a bit, though. How does this idea, being data-led, change how we think about business itself, fundamentally?
Well, the sources argue that business, kind of like nature, runs on these universal principles. And right at the core of those principles, it's data.
Universal principles. How so?
Data is presented as absolute. It doesn't have bias or emotions or an agenda. It's just what happened. The silent witness, the final judge of whether something worked or not.
Okay.
So any decision made without looking at the data, it's basically just guessing, relying on gut feelings, perceptions, human error.
Which can be way off.
Way off.
Right.
But if you harness data correctly, it turns that uncertainty into clarity. Risk becomes opportunity. Ambition becomes something you can actually track and achieve.
And if you ignore it?
Failure's pretty much inevitable, according to Skews. Embrace it, success follows. It's presented as that stark.
And Skews takes it even further, right? With the whole data as DNA idea. That really caught my eye.
Yeah, that's a powerful metaphor. Just like DNA holds the code for life, data is seen as the basic blueprint for any business.
Shaping its structure, how it works, how it evolves.
Exactly. It's in every transaction, every decision, every process. It defines how the organization operates, whether you're consciously analyzing that data or not.
So ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
Nope. It just leaves you vulnerable. Blind spots, missed chances. But if you decode it, interpret it, apply it, then raw information becomes real intelligence. It drives innovation, strategic precision.
Okay, so data is fundamental, like DNA. But how do we actually, work with it effectively? The book lays out 4 key building blocks for analytics. Says if you get these, you're in a good spot.
Absolutely, they're crucial. The
Yeah.
first one is descriptive analytics. This just answers what happened. Simple as that. Summarizing past data, spotting patterns, trends, using things like averages, percentages, charts.
Standard reporting, tracking KPIs.
Exactly, monitoring performance. Then second, you've got diagnostic analytics.
Right.
This asks, okay, why did it happen? It goes deeper than just describing, tries to find root causes.
Oh.
Using things like correlation analysis, drilling down into the data, segmenting it, trying to uncover why performance changed.
Makes sense. What's next?
Third is predictive analytics. This is about what's likely to happen in the future.
The crystal ball.
Sort of. It uses historical data, statistical models, machine learning, all that stuff to forecast outcomes. Think demand forecasting, risk assessment, predicting customer behavior. Really powerful.
Okay, descriptive, diagnostic, predictive. What's the last one?
The fourth, and maybe the ultimate step, is prescriptive analytics.
Prescriptive, so like a doctor's prescription.
Kind of. It answers, okay, based on what's likely to happen, what should we do? It recommends the best actions.
How does it do that?
It uses advanced algorithms, simulation models, AI sometimes, to figure out optimal decisions. For decision automation, resource optimization, planning different scenarios, it guides you to the most effective path forward.
Wow. So you go from just seeing what happened to understanding why, to predicting the future, and finally to knowing the best action to take.
Exactly. From a photo album to detective work to a crystal ball to a GPS, giving you turn-by-turn directions.
That's a great way to put it. So, okay, if we embrace all these levels, what does being data-led actually do for a business? Why should you, our listener, really push for this kind of measurement?
Well, there's a whole list of benefits in the source, but maybe let's focus on a couple that really stand out. Think about improved operational efficiency.
Okay.
It's not just about, trimming costs here and there reactively. It's about building systems that actually prevent waste and bottlenecks from cropping up in the first place.
Designing efficiency in, not just fixing inefficiency.
Exactly. When you track things properly, you don't just fix a broken link, you make the whole chain stronger, more robust. That's a profound shift.
And what's another big one?
Agility and competitive advantage. This is huge today. The market changes so fast.
Right.
Being data-led means you can adapt quickly, not just respond, but actually adapt. Spotting emerging trends before others do, pivoting your strategy based on real-time feedback, innovating with more confidence because you're not just guessing.
Your decisions have evidence behind them.
Precisely. It helps you stay nimble, stay a step ahead of the competition. It's about thriving, not just surviving.
That really highlights the proactive nature again. But this raises a tricky point. How do we make sure we're getting true insights from the data? Human perception, bias.
Yeah.
They can cloud things, right? The source had a striking example of this.
Oh, absolutely. Getting genuine insight, it requires this interesting mix. You need conceptual clarity, logical reasoning, but also, surprisingly, a bit of emotional intelligence to translate data patterns into stories people understand. But the risk of misinterpretation is real. That balance sheet example from the source is quite stark.
Remind us of that one.
Okay, imagine a company. Current assets, £150 K. Current liabilities, £200 K. Net income, £10 K. Total investment, £500.
Got it.
So you calculate the metrics. Current ratio is 0.75. ROI is 2%.
Okay, numbers are numbers.
Right. But now imagine the human commentary in a report. It might say something like, the company's in a stable financial position. ROI is modest, but it shows profit. Current ratio is close to 1, suggesting near-term obligations can almost be met. Sounds okay-ish, right?
Okay, a bit weak, but maybe not disastrous.
But then look at what the data analyzed more deeply, maybe by a system without that human tendency to smooth things over, actually tells us.
What does it say?
It says, warning, significant liquidity stress. Current ratio is way below the safe level of 1.0. They cannot cover short-term debts.
Whoa.
And that 2% ROI, alarmingly low, poor use of capital. The signals point towards potential cash flow crises needing emergency funding. A totally different picture.
That's incredible. The same numbers, but such different interpretations based on how deep you go and maybe who's looking.
Exactly. It shows how easily superficial analysis or maybe wishful thinking can mask really serious problems. You need that deeper, unbiased dive. The source also mentions using things like a radar chart to visually compare against an optimal model, making underperformance instantly obvious.
Okay, the power and the potential pitfalls are clear. So how do businesses actually make this shift? It feels like a huge undertaking to become truly data-led.
It definitely is a journey. It's not like flipping a switch overnight, a sea change, as they say.
Right.
The SKUs books, they're really framed as comprehensive guides for people making that journey, professionals, investors, analysts, entrepreneurs.
Covering all the bases.
Pretty much. Quantitative tools across areas like the 10 determinants of success, finance, the whole business development life cycle, investment decisions, building effective business models. It hits all those key areas.
And it stresses that whole garbage in, garbage out thing, especially with AI now.
Hugely important. You can have the fanciest AI, but if your data is junk or you ask the wrong questions, you get junk answers. Actionable intelligence comes from asking the right questions of good data.
Makes sense.
And the underlying principle really is systems theory. Everything in the business is connected, and data is the language that describes those connections and how the whole system works together for survival and success.
Speaking of connections and systems, one thing that jumped out was the power of seemingly small changes when you have this data-led view.
Yes, that's a critical point. Tiny, measurable improvements can have massive ripple effects if you know where to look and how to measure.
Like the examples they gave.
Yeah, like improving your sales conversion rate by just 1%. On a, say, 10 million funnel, that's an extra 100,000 pounds in revenue, often with almost no extra cost.
Oh.
Or collecting cash just 5 days faster on average, that might free up enough working capital that you don't need to take out an expensive loan.
These aren't massive revolutionary changes.
Not at all. Even something like improving your net promoter score by just 0.2 points. Seems tiny, right? But it could be a crucial leading indicator that your future sales are about to accelerate.
But you'd never see these things or understand their impact without the right framework.
Exactly. These insights are basically invisible unless you've built the infrastructure, the systems, the metrics, the analysis to actually surface them and understand what they mean in time to act.
So it's not necessarily about needing, I don't know, quantum computers or a total overhaul tomorrow.
Not fundamentally, no. Being data-led means you structure your business so these relevant metrics become like the building's foundations. They're woven into how you plan, how you price, who you hire, how you market, how the business evolves.
So the maths isn't just in a report you glance at.
Right. It's baked into the operational reviews, maybe a formula for cash conversion efficiency. It's algorithms guiding how you segment customers. It's models for capital availability actually informing the decisions made in the boardroom.
When the maths lives inside the decisions in the systems,
that's when you're truly data-led. That's the essence of it. From spreadsheets sitting on a shelf to strategy and action.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've really unpacked what data-led means, from the core definition versus data-driven, right through to the foundational principles, the types of analytics, and the very real impact it can have.
Yeah, seeing data not just as a record, but as that active DNA, guiding strategy, predicting what's next.
It really changes the perspective.
And that final thought from the source material just sums it up so well, I think.
Which one was that?
Data doesn't just tell you what happened, it tells you what to build next.
Ah, yeah. That's powerful.
It really is. And there's a reason they use the word led, right? It implies leadership, direction, not just reaction.
It makes perfect sense.
So maybe the question for everyone listening is, next time you hear we're data-driven, pause and ask, are we really leading with data, or are we just reacting with reports?
A crucial distinction.
Because, in this world flooded with information, success doesn't just go to those who chase numbers. It goes to those who understand how to truly lead with them.
A perfect thought to end on. We certainly hope this deep dive has given you plenty to chew on for your own business, your own role. Keep those insights flowing.
Definitely.
And we'll catch you on the next deep dive.